the recording. I have just a few moments of introductory information. So welcome everyone. I am Susan Martin, the Program Director for PhD Career Development, and April Fuller, the Graduate Assistant for PhD Career Development, is also here today. The Rita B. Leahy series is part of the Graduate Pathways framework in the graduate school, and all of the work that April and I do is designed to help you manage your career. The Rita B. Leahy Career Series was brought about last year by the generous support of one of our civil engineering alumna, Rita Leahy. She received her PhD in 1989. And this series intentionally brings our current doc students and postdocs and Maryland alumni together so that current students and postdocs can explore career opportunities. And in each session, we have panelists, recent PhD alumni from different disciplines who are doing similar work. That's very intentional because PhDs have many transferable skills and many different ways that they've gotten to their current career paths. So today we are so privileged to have Rachel Adler, Ranchu Mathew, and Yuandong, and I will let each of them quickly do their elevator pitch to introduce themselves, and then we're going to jump right in and have Rachel start telling her career story. So let me stop sharing, and Rachel, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name's Rachel Adler. I graduated from UMD in 2018 with a PhD in Neuroscience and Cognitive Science. I've been at Bloomberg for about a year and a half. I'm a data scientist. I primarily work on things like anomaly detection, some NLP and machine learning classification, and applying statistics to real world business problems, especially in the financial field.
Go ahead. Would our next panelist introduce
Hi,
themselves?
everyone. My name is Yuandong. I graduated from Maryland with a doctoral degree in agriculture and resource economics. Currently, I'm working for US Bank as a quantitative modeler. So we are doing the C-card analysis, and our results will be used by the bank to meet the federal regulation requirements. And yeah, I'm happy to meet you guys here. And if you have any questions later on, we can talk a lot. I have quite a lot of experience in terms of searching for a job in the US as a international student. And yeah.
Hey guys, first of all, thanks Susan for this opportunity. So I'm Ranchu Mathew. I did my PhD in physics in 2017, so that's like 3 years ago. And then I was a postdoc for maybe 6 to 8 months there in UMD with my advisor. And then I started as a data scientist in Mariana in October 2018. So what I work on is supply chain and unstructured data for life sciences companies. So we help them extract the data, understand the data, connect the data, and then build models to solve business problems. So yeah, that's my elevator pitch.
Okay, that's super. So we've decided on the order, and each panelist is going to take 10 minutes and tell you more about what they do and how they got there and share some advice. And we're going to hold questions until the second part. So I'll let Rachel start. Go right ahead.
Sure. So I've taken a bit of a meandering path. I think this is fairly common in the data science field, particularly from those of us with an academic background. So my undergrad degree is in psychology, and after I completed that, I actually went to a different PhD program in St. Louis, and I lasted about 3 months, and then I quit. For a number of different reasons. Part of it was lack of fit with the mentor, distance. I was out in St. Louis. Anyway, so I worked for a couple of years in education as a research assistant, and I was bored out of my mind. I missed school. I missed learning things. I missed kind of the intellectual discussions and pursuits. So I decided to go back for my PhD. My PhD, as I mentioned, was in neuroscience and cognitive science, primarily focusing on language, so how people process and understand language in real time. As I suspect is the case for a lot of students in PhD programs, we do a lot of analysis, use a lot of statistics, use programming to design experiments and analyze data and so forth. So when I started my PhD program, I thought that I wanted to stay in academia. I loved research, I loved data analysis, and that seemed like the optimal solution for me. But around my fourth year, I started to realize that maybe that was no longer the case. For a couple of different reasons. One, I really wanted a more collaborative environment. Academia is very, you have your research topic and you have to get funding for it and you have to find grad students to support you and so forth and so forth. And I love working with other people, working on a team, having collaborative projects. Also more practical things. I didn't want to be beholden to a particular geographic location. I wanted to be able to get a job anywhere I wanted, not just wherever there's a school with a position that's open that year. And I wanted an income that was stable. I didn't want to be writing grants every single year to make sure I got funding. I had enough experience with that as a grad student with unstable funding situations, things like that. But of course, also for actual reasons having to do with the job. As I said, I love data analysis. I love getting my hands dirty, cleaning data, playing around with data, coming up with conclusions, visualizations, all that kind of stuff. So I wanted a job that would let me keep doing that while also not having some of the downsides that I mentioned associated with academia. So I started exploring data science. And Susan, I can actually thank you for some of this. One of the first things I did was informational interviews. I did a ton of informational interviews. I talked to so many people. I talked to people at Spotify, at Amazon, at smaller companies no one's ever heard of. Just tons of different data scientists to find out like what actually happens in a data science job, right? What do you do on a daily basis? What skills do I need to have? How should I pitch myself? How should I design my resume? You know, I had people send me their resumes and me send them my resumes, never with any expectation of this turning into a position, just as a way for me to learn more and network and meet other people. So it became clear that there were certain skills I had and certain skills I lacked. I had some programming skills, mostly in R, but not a lot of skills in the languages people I discovered tended to use, like SQL and Python. So I decided that I would take some classes in order to kind of beef up my resume. I spent a long time determining the best approach to this. I ended up doing a boot camp. It was a pretty intensive one. It was 6 months long. I did it while I was still in my PhD program during my last year. It was pretty intense. I had very few weekends and evenings to myself. But the nice part of the boot camp is that in addition to classes, you did a couple projects, which then you could show potential employers. You were assigned a mentor and they helped review your projects and give career advice. And they did things like practice interviews, which I had no experience with. So that gave me a significant amount of experience. They also forced you to do networking. I am not a networking fan normally. I'm an introvert. I find it very uncomfortable. I will only do it when forced. So that was really helpful. When I graduated, I applied to like 50 or 60 positions. I got rejected a lot. I kind of knew that was coming. It's still hard when it actually happens. A lot of places really want experienced hires. They want people who have had experience before, right? Who have had a job in industry, which obviously I didn't have. I kept my LinkedIn profile updated and I got contacted by several recruiters. One of them is what turned into my first position out of grad school. It was a contractor position, so it wasn't ideal in terms of benefits, but they didn't mind hiring someone right out of school. It was a 6-month position, and I figured I, would see how it goes. It's 6 months. It went really well. It was in finance. I had no interest in finance. I knew nothing about finance, so there was a bit of a learning curve with that. But it gave me experience that let me then pivot into my current position, and gave it experience both in terms of data science, but also in terms of finance, which is where I still am, even though that's never where I intended to be. One thing I will say is that when I applied for my current position, I actually did not apply to the position that I have. I applied to a lower level position, not a data scientist position, but a data analyst position, because even after the 6-month contract job, I was having a bit of trouble kind of getting people to bite, So I went through the interview for the analyst position, and I asked a bunch of questions like, oh, are you using NLP? And it turns out they're not, nothing at all like that. But they said, listen, you seem like you'd be a good fit for this higher level position. I'll get you an interview with them. And that's where I am now. Let's see, what did I not hit?
Rachel, in about three more minutes or so, could you talk about what you do day to day?
Sure.
And then if you have any advice for someone who's thinking of doing this pivot, that would be fantastic.
Sure. Day to day, I do way more data cleaning and processing than I ever thought I would. Probably 75% of my work is just getting data usable. I do much less machine learning and NLP than I expected to be doing. I don't mind, but that's something to ask about when you're applying for positions, if that's something you feel strongly about. And I use statistics a lot. There's a big demand for people with actual statistics knowledge, and that's come in handy. And of course, if you completed a PhD, chances are you have that knowledge. Your other question was things I wish I had known, right? Communication skills. You should really emphasize, if you are good at communicating in writing or verbally, it is absolutely something to emphasize. The amount of time I waste with people who cannot communicate, but also the amount of time I spend trying to clarify, working with engineers, working with people in tech ops, working in people in product. You need to be able to communicate with all these different people at all different levels, right? Some people know how to code in Python and know all the technical implementations, but other people have never coded a line in their life. So being able to explain things at different levels is really helpful. And then the other thing that no one really told me was you should practice interviewing. Interviewing is a skill, and it does not come naturally to most people, and it's really hard and it's really uncomfortable. I applied to a couple positions I was not actually that interested in solely so I could practice interviews. That way, the first couple of interviews you're gonna not do well on. They're gonna be really terrible. So make them with companies that you don't care that much about, but at least you get the practice. Same thing with technical interviews. These days, they're pretty standard for data science positions. You have to code a problem with someone watching you. Very uncomfortable, very awkward. So just practice a ton. Yeah, I think that ends my 10 minutes.
Thanks, Rachel. Okay, could we have our next panelist go ahead? Super.
Sure. So first and foremost, what I'm going to be sharing with you guys is my own opinion and doesn't represent my employer, US Bank. US Bank. This is the policy that I got to know when I told my boss to ask for his permission, and he contacted HR, so asked me to say this disclaimer in the very beginning. So that's something very normal and common when you go out to speak, but somehow you are using your employer's credential, like you are saying, oh, I'm a U.S. employer. I'm sorry, U.S. employee, and I'm speaking here, but you want to have this disclaimer said in the very beginning. So my career path. So during my of last year or later years of my PhD study, I figured out doing academic is not the future I want to go to. So I share similar things as Rachel just shared, like you don't have a stable income and you know from your advisors what the life of being a professor would be like you have to keep writing grants and applications, and you are waiting for like their approval, and you don't have like kind of stressful, and so that's something like I don't think I want to pursue. So I decided to choose another path, but the transition was not very easy because looking for a job in academia is quite different from looking a job in industry. For example, if you are looking for a job in academia, you have your resume, and the resume will be mainly focusing on your publications, like the presentations you did, and what conference you went, and what journals you published your papers. And when people see your resume like that from academia background, they will know if they want to have you for interviews or not. But for industry jobs, they don't care about what you publish, what presentations you give. They may care about your communication skills, but not so much about your publications. What they care is your experience, just as Rachel mentioned before, like they prefer people with experience in their industry rather than people fresh out of school. So that is one of the challenges you may have if you want to transition yourself to industry employment. And so that reminds me about resume preparation. So the resume we have for industry is very different from the one you use for academia position. You have to emphasize a lot about your skills through your projects, and put the language so very plain, so people without your background can understand what you did in the past, and they can have a very quick impression about your skills, whether you are a good fit for their position or not. So I didn't realize that in the very beginning. So I just apply a bunch of jobs that I'm interested in with the academia resume, and I got very a few, response. Later on, I realized that, so I went to the career center and I write my industrial specific resumes, and have a lot of other people to read my resume and help me to modify it. And how do I find those people? This is about a network. So in the beginning, I contact people I know in person, but I don't have that many people I know who are sharing similar background with me at the same time they are working in industry. So I started to network. And the starting point is to use LinkedIn. That's a very powerful, useful thing for us to use. You find people there, like maybe from your program or from your same school, and or people from the jobs you are interested in, from the companies you are interested in. And then you can find a bunch of templates or write your own words to start a conversation with those strangers, completely strange to you, but doesn't matter. You may send out like 10 or 20 invitations to see, hey, I came across your profile and your background. It's very similar to mine, and I'm very interested in the job you are doing. Could we have a few minutes to speak? And it is very common for you to not receive response at all, but that doesn't matter. You may receive like a 2 out of 10 or even out of 20, but at least you get someone to talk to you. And through this way, I got people from Wells Fargo, from Amazon, from other bunch of companies, and I really appreciate their help. It's like, I didn't know them in person, but they are just willing to help. You never know. We have those people out there. You contact them and you ask them, like, have informational interview, ask them what they do as a data scientist or a financial modeler, and they will share experience with you, just like we are sharing our experience with you guys right now. And maybe in the end, they will like proactively say, oh, we have some position for like for people like you. If you want, you can send me your resume. That would be fantastic. But if that's not the case, it's also okay. You can go to their like company's web pages and to find potential positions and ask them for referral. I think after a few contacts and conversations, if you feel comfortable, you can send your resume to them and ask them for referral. They may say yes, they may say no, but they are willing to, most of them are willing to help you if they answered your invitation in the first place. And through this way, I got a bunch of interviews from different places. And I also built up my data science profile. So I did a few projects and I did some homework online to know what kind of skills employers are looking for and what kind of projects may demonstrate our skills with academic background. So we have some advantages in terms of mathematics training, statistic background, but we have some disadvantage, which is we don't have much experience in doing projects, real projects, not our academia job, but some job like the employers will be interested in. So I built up several projects. For example, I use Fannie Mae data to build a machine learning model to demonstrate my skills. And I have my GitHub page set up. I have all my projects there, so people can easily to go there to see what I have done. And I think that helps. And also network helps me a lot. So as I mentioned before, I got a bunch of interviews from different employers, but the actual job I'm working now is kind of random. Like sometimes you have high expectations for some of your interviews, but you ended up with nothing. For other interviews, you don't have high expectation, but somehow you get something much better out of it. So my case is like I applied a few jobs, and which I don't think I will get anything because I don't know people there. I don't get referral. I just directly applied online and then wait, just like through something and hope something will stick. And and this one really worked out. I didn't know anybody from the company at all. So the reason I applied for this position is a friend of mine knew I was looking for a job, and he knew someone from US Bank. And out of courtesy, my friends just dropped me a few links for the opening positions. So it's like you can find those positions openings online yourself. But he gave me those links. I just went there to apply without any referral, and then I got interview. Like 6 managers interviewed me, including the vice president in the quantitative section. And I think I satisfied like only one manager didn't approve, all other managers approved. So that's the way I get a job. So this doesn't mean other network doesn't help. They certainly help, but in an indirect way, maybe through other interviews you get from your network, you get practice, you know what they are looking for, and you just use those experience in your later interviews. So nothing went in vain in the process of your preparation. Just be like a patient and know that there are many factors could contribute to your final situation, like whether you get an offer, your own ability, your performance in a specific interview, the employers, and also other competitors who are also fighting for this job. Sometimes just a bit of out of luck. So if you didn't get a position and you think you definitely you will get that, but you didn't get, don't be disappointed about yourself or anything else, because there are so many factors contribute to the final results. it could be other things, and just keep learning, keep doing, and you will eventually find it. And before our panelist meeting today, I received several LinkedIn invitations, I believe, from our group, because between me and that person, those persons, the only link is Susan. So I believe people get to know me, search my LinkedIn and find me and try to connect, which is a very good initial step in the whole process of transitioning from academia to industry job. I don't know if I used up my minutes already or not.
That was wonderful. Thank you so, so much, Yuandong. And next is going to be Ranchu. And then I can't wait to get to the Q&A. I have so many questions, and I know that some have been coming in the chat box. Okay, so bring it home, Ranchu.
Yeah, so guys, so I'm Ranchu Mathew, as Susan said, and I confirm that I'm Ranchu Mathew. And so my career has been like, I took a lot of different paths, not even paths, but different stops. My undergrad degree was in mechanical engineering, and I worked as a software engineer for a few years. Then I had this, oh, I wanted to do physics. I think that idea was there from my undergrad itself. Then I did PhD in physics. And I came with some romantic idea of what research is, how academia is. And it kind of like, it came crashing eventually. And I don't know. So after my PhD was done, I was happy. And I took a bike trip. Okay. I went on a bike trip. And after that, I came over, I thought, okay, I think my life is resolved. I'll know what to do. But it was still, I was back to, okay, man, should I do this or not? And then what I did is I realized I need to move out of academia to be basically happy, at least, right? And the thing that I realized is, what are my skill sets then? I had a programming background because I did some software engineering before. During my PhD, I used Python for certain simulation. So Python is like a de facto language in data science. So there is the R, which is more for the stats guys. And Python is more the data science. It's like, its ecosystem is amazing. It's a very elegant language. Prior to that, I worked in Java, and I hate it. I won't, if I see a Java code, it's like, I can't. Python is pretty nice. So I had done some Python for my physics project. And so then I realized for transition, what to do. I was applying to various places and nothing moved. Okay. So then there are these Rachel mentioned about boot camp. There are these two of these which used to be there, which still are in a various form. One was the data incubator. The other was the Insight scholarship or Insight program. So I applied for the data incubator. I went in there. It was a pretty hectic, I think it was a 6 weeks program. And the thing, it was very quick. So the idea is, we in academia have this tendency to, at least I had this tendency to study everything from bottom up. Oh, I need to understand everything. But once you come, oh man, this is like too much. Okay. And the thing that helped me in some sense, during the boot camp, it was too much information. But eventually I started connecting the picture when I studied, if you are mathematically oriented, studying optimization, right? Essentially, it's all optimization, the machine learning stuff and everything. So once you learn, then you can see that picture. Programming wise, I was more comfortable. And for the preparation, at least I had done some bottom-up stuff there. What I had done is I had gone through few of the CS courses for undergrad, computer science courses, programming, like data structures, algorithms, complexity. And there are few amazing ones on YouTube. Like you can waste your life on YouTube, but if you want to do something useful, you can do something, right? So yeah, so I did that. That was a good grounding thing, because even though I had done some software engineering, that gave me a pretty solid understanding of how things are. And it actually helps me in, if I do any coding, it helps in the way you think about how you approach a problem. You have your, say, quantitative mathematical way of looking into things. if you do learn some CS basic, that gives you another point of view of attacking a problem. So that was my preparation. In TDI was like pretty hectic. One thing that I learned out of TDI was the whole talking with people, communication, right? Grad school, I was on my own. I never liked like talking in front of people. Maybe one-to-one is okay. But the thing that was, we had a lot of interview practice. We had a capstone project which we had to present. And I remember, like, I just to say, like, my experience, all I can tell you is my experience, and you can reflect on what you get out of it. I had like, we had to record some presentation. I had a decent project. It was something about whiskey tasting. Okay, I liked whiskeys. So it was some whiskey recommended. And my videos used to be terrible. And usually because it was all that grad school, just before the submission time, making that video, oh, it was terrible. But towards the end, I realized like this, like communication is a big thing, right? I realized like I had a decent project and I couldn't do it. And I don't know, I maybe a bit of anger of that. We had a final presentation for them to get selected for whatever, for a final presentation with our partners, which are essentially the companies with whom we interviewed with. Like I was a bit, oh man, let me, I can do this, okay. So I was like pretty amped up, and that presentation was like, oh man, that went pretty well. And I went into the final say, whatever it was like a small victory. So I'm saying in the sense, for me, the other aspect, the programming aspect, wasn't that big of a challenge because I had done it prior to my PhD and I was more comfortable. I think this communication and then selling yourself in a certain way, right? That was a big, it's just a hurdle you have to, once you go through, it becomes comfortable. So that was the journey till that point, the TDI program. Then we had some partner companies. I interviewed with my present company, which is Mariana, via them, and I got an interview. It was very fast. I had a very tight deadline. So I'm of course, I'm an international student. So I think I was going to talk through this in the way Susan had given, but I'll go in my rambling way because it's like a story I'm telling. So essentially, as an international student, if you are in grad school, it's a cozy place. You don't have to think about your immigration status when all you need to do is renew your I-20 if you go beyond 5 years, right? Which I did. I took more than 5 years. I won't tell you you can find it out anyway. But the thing is, once you are out of it, it becomes, the time starts ticking and it's become a bit uncertain. So I realized like the 6 months they were of my OPT, I was in, I don't know, physics, what to do. It wasn't clear. I kind of wasted that. If I had that, then like that process would have been easier, would have been less stressful for me. So keep that in your mind, the OPT and the STEM timeline. Use it in such a way that you can, like, one, if you have decide, like it's better to decide once you are towards the end of your PhD. Take your PhD time to decide and stretch it like Rachel did. I did it afterwards, so it was a bit more tricky for me. So yeah, so that's been the journey till and I've been in Mariana say for the past 2 years. So I'll just give you my background, what Mariana is, what I do on a day-to-day basis. So Mariana is it's a small data science company, and our clients are life sciences companies. And we usually work with supply chain data and unstructured data. Now, supply chain is essentially how you manufacture stuff, where are things, how can you track those things, how many, like when you are making something, how many ingredients went in and so forth. So from the shop floor, from your vendors all the way to your consumer. So that particular data is kind of our expertise from the business point of view. And the other thing is the unstructured data is essentially data which is hidden inside, say, documents, which is not in a structured format. So those are the two main points. So we use those as a tool to solve business problems. Okay. So I kind of work in two modes. I work sometimes in client projects, and usually we the other thing is, it's surprisingly it's a small company. There are 5 data scientists, and 5 of us are from the same cohort in the data incubator. 4 of us are PhD. So it's good. Like we have people to talk to or whatever, right? So that's a pretty good point. Oh, 2 more minutes. Oh, I've been okay. So okay, let me go fast. Okay. So okay. So what was I going? So what do I work on? So essentially, yeah. So it's this. This is the business thing, and the point is, it's mostly about understanding the data, cleaning the data. It's a big thing. Academia, your data is super clean. You know what's happening. Real world, it's terrible. So data cleaning, data engineering is a huge part that you need to know as you go in, unless you get a specialist job in, say, Amazon, where you have research scientist position and so forth. But a general data scientist job is a very generalist job. So you kind of need data engineering, data cleaning, then you build models and so forth, and you of course have your client interaction. Let me go through my points and see what are the things that I need to do. So, okay, so from the networking perspective, right, I think it's pretty important to talk to people. Like, just put in a harsh term, if you put your resume in LinkedIn, it's like going into a black hole. I don't know anyone reads it. You have to hit people. Like, you might know people you might have just say hi for the past 5 years, who are you shared your floor with, right? Just go and ask them, because they have gone through the same struggle, and they will be more than happy to help you. And actually, yeah, you will be surprised how helpful they are. Like, when I was running, a friend of friend got me a connection to an amazing, like, recruiter. There's recruiter and contact point who arrange my interview pretty fast. That's how it is. So finding that contact, connect with people. It's, if they don't know, it's okay. It doesn't matter, right? It's essentially, yeah, it's just, but getting used to that. And the first job is pretty difficult to find. It's a difficult task, and getting used to rejection. It's okay. Apply as much. And there are so many people, and they are off. Yeah, it's once you come to this side, I can see their perspective. Why do they act the way they do? But do keep on doing it, right? And let me say a few things about what the other things which I should have known about. Yeah, so one thing, like, personally, what I see in a job is the emotional attachment, right? In PhD, you are very emotionally attached to your job. Working, it's amazing. You work 9 to 5. You are not that emotionally attached. The other thing is it's more collaborative. Okay, so it's not your own headache. It's not your own thesis, right? So you can be. It's that takes away that burden from you. Okay, so 9 to 5, do your job. There are other things other hobbies you can pursue. You pursue your curiosity, which is essential. We all share. We are in a PhD program, and there are a lot of avenues there to do that. So that part is one thing which I'm enjoying right now, is that it's not that emotion. I'm not that emotionally attached to what I have. Like in grad school, I used to be like, all days are work days, all days are holidays. So yeah, so I think I might be over time. I was, yeah, okay.
That is fantastic. So I cannot thank you all for sharing these personal stories. I've heard you. I'm going to ask the first question, and then I'm going to go in and let our guests ask some questions. I heard you say it's tough to find the first job, and two of you have the title data science, one has analyst. So how did you all figure out what positions you should be applying for, and what are those job titles? Because they vary. So let's hear from each of you, one or two job titles that you think someone who's doing this pivot should be applying for.
Like I said, for my current position, I originally applied for a data analyst position. I don't know, for me, data analyst was not what I wanted, but at different companies, it means different things, so it's worth looking at. Same with data engineer, means different things at different companies. So yeah, I think data analyst, data scientist, and data engineer are the ones I look for.
Yeah,
Yuandong?
The definition of data scientist is very broad and varies from company to company. In addition to that, I'm working in the financial industry, so it's like so the things I would like to add, the titles includes like the quantitative modelers. That's very common titles in financial industry. For example, in Maryland, in Washington DC area, you have Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Capital One. Those are the big employers for quantitative modelers in financial industry. And what else? Quantitative analyst. So you just add a quantitative, you will see a bunch of things related to data science.
And Ranchu, you're at a small startup. What labels do they use?
So the thing with the small startup is you can ask for whatever label you want, but it's usually data scientist. I think data scientist is a pretty broad one. It's like stats, machine learning, and programming tied together. But there are certain specialist jobs which you might find in big companies like Amazon and Google's, is the machine learning engineer, machine learning scientist, and so forth. But data scientist is the broadest of all.
Okay, so let me switch to the grid view. And if anyone has a question, could you unmute yourself and you can direct it to one or more of the panelists.
Hi, this is Dee.
Hi, Dee, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a PhD student in Department of Economics. Actually, I have defended my dissertation earlier this month. Yeah, and I will graduate in December.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm interested in, like you said, the quantitative modeler or quantitative researcher positions in finance industry, since my PhD concentration is in international finance and macroeconomics. And my question is for Yuandong. So what is the most efficient way to learn Python, and how to choose projects to beef up my resume? And what is your day-to-day work looks like? Thank you.
That's a very good question. I believe many of have similar questions. So for me, during my PhD studies, I didn't use Python. I used data a lot. Later on, for industry, I realized we need to use a variety of languages, R, Python, and probably SQL. So the platform I choose is DataCamp, especially when there's promotion. You buy membership for a year, and you will see they have a lot of courses in different languages. For Python, they offer different career tracks like data scientist or data analyst. And you can start from there. I think that's a very effective way for me to prepare myself in those different skills. And also I built my projects after I took those courses.
And Rachel and Ranchu, how did you build sort of that portfolio of projects and also beef up your programming languages experience, Rachel? Ranchu, I knew you came in with that, but how did you also create that evidence that you have the skills that they're looking for? Could each of you?
I didn't know Python at all. I taught myself for the most part and then learned more in the boot camp. I picked topics that were interesting to me. I was studying sarcasm for my dissertation, so I did some work with Twitter data and the sarcasm hashtag. That was just convenient. For me, actually using the language is how I learn. But also I made a GitHub repository. So I put all my code in there so that any employer can go in and look, and there's actual proof that I know what I'm doing. I can actually code. So I think that was helpful. And also if you do put projects in a GitHub repo like that, put a README, put a description. It's another way for you to show that you can communicate and describe things in a clear way. Just another opportunity.
Yeah, so just so as I said before, like I did use Python for my PhD research, and the thing the thing which I would advise is I didn't have a good portfolio because I went a bit bottom-up approach. Building a portfolio is pretty nice, and the one thing which you could do is, like, for example, the Capstone project that we had in the data incubator was something which is any topic which is of your interest. So during that time, I used to like Scotch, single malt Scotch, which doesn't go well with being a grad student. But But that was a nice way, like I built a whiskey recommender. The data science part wasn't that difficult, but the point is it was like a product in some sense. So that is, so if you are thinking of building a portfolio, think about the problem which actually interests you. Like, because I'll just, sorry, give an example. I changed the capstone problem in between. I started with, okay, let's think, let's do, oh, I thought might try finance, and I was thinking about, okay, let's see what stock market thing. But that's like that's a pretty difficult problem people have always worked with, and it was, so yeah, just pick a topic which interests you, that, and make a portfolio, which is pretty important.
Okay, it looks like Lewis has a question, and Jacqueline, you may have had a question. So Lewis, you can go first, and then Jacqueline.
Yeah, so Python is something that I use pretty much every day in my lab for the research that I'm doing. However, the impression I get is that just being able to say I know how to throw sklearn in a program and pick which of the algorithms within it might be the building block, but there's probably a lot of apps you guys use in industry and languages which I don't need in my lab. For example, SQL, for the size of data sets I'm using, is pointless. Tableau I've seen in a few job postings, but I've never touched. What else would you guys recommend learning?
It's tough to learn without actual data to work with, but PySpark or just Spark in general for working with data that can't just fit on one computer would be the main thing that I use. Tableau, I think, tends to be more associated with analysts than data scientists. It's like point and click, not so much coding. But most of my job is using Python or company-specific software that you can't learn until you're at the company.
So to add to that, see, one thing is the landscape, the technology landscape nowadays has been accelerating like crazy. So the technologies get obsolete in no time. So of course, like Python is a building block, sklearn, you kind of know you have to come, and then you might have seen like libraries coming every other day, right? So the thing is, it's more important to kind of conceptually know what's happening. Like this, the idea of big data where the PySpark thing comes in, the Hadoop thing, and so forth, conceptually, but don't get into the details unless you need to implement it. So, but get a kind of overall point of view, but get a strong programming background and a strong understanding of at least one language, say Python or whatever it is, R or something. So that is like the fundamentals helps a lot.
Okay,
Yeah,
Jacqueline, did you? Oh, sorry, Yuandong. Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like language is just a tool, and once you master your like statistic skills, you are ready to use any language. But as Ranchu mentioned, you master one language, and then those languages, they share some common concepts behind it. So once you have one, the other ones are not that hard to learn, but it really depends on the job.
Wonderful. Jacqueline, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. So I'd like to ask, so apart from the income and salary perspective, do you guys actually like enjoy your current job? Like, do you love it? Like how enjoyable it is? Like, yeah.
What a great question. What a great question.
I work with a bunch of nerds, so I'm very happy. We're all, for the most part, kind of academic dropouts, people with PhDs who decided not to stay in academia. So it's like being a grad student, except you get paid more and you don't have to work weekends and nights. I love my job. It's all the aspects of research that I enjoy, like I mentioned before, without the stress that academia tended to create.
Same here. We have very good life and work balance. Sometimes, like the past weekend, my coworker said we need to do something during the weekend, and my boss felt sorry for me to work during the weekend, and he said we will give you extra days after we finish this busy season. And I feel like in graduate school, every day is a work day, every day is a holiday day. You have a stress coming to you all the time until you graduate. So I feel like I really enjoy the work I am doing right now.
Yeah, same here. I'll be honest. I'm much more happier than I was in PhD, and I think the fact of is you work 9 to 5, whatever it is. It's more collaborative, so it's not just on you. You don't take your work in your sleep. Okay, you are just done 5 o'clock done. You don't have to think much, and it's been like, at least for my personally, the whole thing has been like the whole data science project. I kind of know how things move now. So there isn't that much uncertainty. Like when you are doing a research problem, you know where it will lead to and so forth. So that kind of lack of uncertainty is also pretty nice. And usually there are timelines. So it's not like, okay, this is my, okay, your project, I might solve it, I'll finish it next year, whatever. That's not, there are timelines. So it helps it time bound the whole thing. So it's pretty much less stressful than it is.
Super. How about Shinjo and then Zachary? You can ask your questions.
Hi, I'm Shinjo. I'm interested in a question, when you apply for data science jobs, what aspect does the the recruiters or the HRs are most interested in you? Like I know that Ranchu mentioned he had a boot camp project from like some people joined the boot camp. And some people like have the I'm sorry. I wanted to shorten my question is what do you think is most important for the recruiters to hire you? Is this your experience at a boot camp, or is this the project, the actual project you have done? Like how many projects usually are considered you have done enough project in order to be hired?
To be honest, I think a lot of employers sort of look down on the boot camps. It comes off as kind of a quick fix. You need to have some evidence that you can actually do things. I had 2 main projects on my resume. Even though I hadn't had a job in data science, I could at least prove my skills that way. I think they're more interested in, can you get started on day 1 doing things, than do you have all the classes to suggest that you might have these skills, if that makes sense.
Zachary, go ahead.
So my question is kind of the flip side of the other question, which is, it seems like this is also, hi, Rachel. This PhD to data science path is a fairly well-known one, which makes me expect that employers have feelings about applicants who are coming from an academia background. So I'm wondering what kinds of things an employer tends to be worried about when considering someone coming from academia. So one thing that comes to mind is academia functioning at a very different sort of pace, but I'm curious if there are other things or ways to make people less worried about those things.
So from my experience, I don't, at least for myself, I didn't think there's any concern from employers when you are coming from academia background. Normally that's an advantage because you are well trained in mathematics and statistics. You are kind of most of the time overqualified for the position. And I think lack of first-hand experience in working environment could be, if there's anything concern from employers, could be that. But I don't think that's a big concern for employers, because once you jump in, you can contribute and you can make progress very fast, even faster than your co-workers, because you are well trained to learn things independently and quickly and do your research. And that's kind of quality and characters employers are looking for. Yeah.
Ranchu and April, what do you think? And I want to be mindful of time, so let's let this be the last question, and I will let them each address it, and then we will thank them. I want to be really mindful. This is in the middle of their workday, so let's hear their thoughts on what employers think about those coming from academia, based on your experiences.
Okay, so I'll go first. One thing is, this overqualification. So there is a tendency, they have a kind of fear that you are used to certain kind of problems or research deep problems, you might get bored. That's the thing, right? That is one thing which need to be careful. But if you can show you have worked on code, you have done projects, these things also interest you. So that is the only thing, like you are actually to show you are passionate about the position. And however, so there might be, of course, if we go the academic way of being very honest, brutally honest, that won't work. You have to be, I won't say fake, but to sell yourself, right? That part is pretty important. And not being brutally honest about everything, right? Which is our training as being an academic is kind of like we qualify all our statements. So that kind of, it has to be like, yeah, we have to get away from that. That's one thing. The other thing is, I think one thing which personally I've seen is I've become more patient. I was used to more precise languages and so forth. And usually your client meeting and all, it's not that precise, and it's the same point takes to convey that point, it takes like 5-10 minutes. So those are the things which one needs to be a bit careful.
Okay, Rachel, take it home, and then I'm going to wrap it up.
Sure. The only thing I would add is that sometimes I encountered the perception that in grad school, you are focused on your own work, which for the most part is true, right? You just wrote a dissertation for the last 1.5 to 2 years. That was all your own work. So having some evidence that you can actually work with other people is helpful, group projects or collaborations with other labs, things like that. I also wanted to say, just as a general point, if anyone, wanted to reach out on LinkedIn, I'm happy to talk anytime. Yeah, just find me there.
Yeah, same. I forgot that. Yeah, I'm more than willing to help. So.
Yeah, same here.
Well, I really want to thank our panelists today. You all have been incredible. Just your honesty about your stories and your advice has been invaluable. Let me give I want to go back to my slides really quickly because I want to make sure I don't forget to tell you that we're going to be talking next month about research careers outside of academia. So be on the lookout for when I send the information about who the panelists are. If you could take a moment and use this Go link, go.umd.edu Leahy eval, and please tell us what you thought so that I can go ahead and share the comments in the next few weeks with our panelists. The recordings are also going to be on YouTube. I saw that April put in the Go link to my channel, but this is another Go link that will work. And then for those of you who aren't aware of all of the services that are available to PhDs, please check out the grad school website. I was struck by how each panelist talked about the need to practice interviewing. On the YouTube channel are recorded videos from past workshops about interviewing and resumes and job search. And you can actually learn more about how to make an appointment with me or to use a tool called Interview Stream, which is inside of your Careers for Terps account to practice video interviewing. So thank you so much. We've gone 3 minutes over time. If you all who are here still, please feel free to unmute your mic and say thank you to our panelists so that they can feel like there are humans here. So thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Ranchu, and thank you, Yuandong. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for the opportunity.
I'm stopping the recording.